My Destiny journey began back in 2016. I purchased the Destiny The Final Collection Edition, and it included The Dark Below, House of Wolves, Taken King, and Rise of Iron. Basically, the complete package. I remember thinking to myself that this would be just a shooter, but I remember on the front it had labeled that it was by the creators of Halo and Call of Duty. Kind of something that I was pretty excited about. I remember at the time I was not allowed to play R-rated games, so it was PG-13, and it took two games that I'd always wanted to play and gave it a teen rating, so I had access. And I remember thinking it would just be a classic shooter, kind of like Halo, kind of like Call of Duty, just running around and maybe I'll fly a ship with some guns on it. And I remember opening the game and it wasn't quite like that. Instead of like sci-fi, Star Wars, and I was met with magicians and magic and ghosts for some fucking reason. And I remember being so annoyed with the fact that I was driving a Sparrow and it didn't have guns on it. And then you get the fallen ones. I'm pretty sure that was in Destiny 1. I don't fully remember, but you could drive those around and they have guns, but they're kind of just crap. I played the game for quite a while. I beat all the campaigns. We didn't have Xbox Live at the time because we were broke and my parents didn't want me on the internet. And probably related to those Roblox allegations. However, I played through all the campaigns and I had quite a lot of fun. I think I got 2 exotics. One was some hive gun that was automatic, and I kind of had a blast with the game, honestly. However, shortly thereafter, Destiny 2 came out, and I remember picking up the beta and being hyped. I saw there was a third ability. I don't know what that's honestly referred to now, but it was so cool to me. All the new things. The Cabal had changed. They were red now. Dominus, Gaul, kind of looked cool. And it was honestly something that I was pretty excited for. And I'd started day one. I'd gotten the game. I played on the EDZ, and found it quite enjoyable. I remember the guy that was in the sniper tower. I haven't opened the game in a minute. However, I don't know if he's still in the game right now. But I found the game to be a lot of fun up to that point. And I remember I also had access to the first 2 expansions, Trials of Osiris, and the one on the Hive planet, Ice. And given that my playtime of the first Destiny wasn't super expansive, I didn't do raids, I didn't do a ton of, I think I did some strikes, however I did not do a lot of Crucible, just didn't have access to gold. However, we did the second time around, and I remember playing the game and I thought it was quite a blast. I got into LFG too, played that a few times, had quite a lot of friends that played the game. And I remember kind of building myself into a community almost, and that I think was a very, very advantageous part of Destiny. My journey with falling out of love with it came around the time of the second Destiny 2 expansion, the one with the Hive. The reason why I don't know much about it is because I didn't play it much. I think I barely got through it, and I just kind of got out of the habit, quit grinding it as much. And I remember the first raid came out at some point, and I never did end up beating it. I remember trying it many times. However, I remember I then got back into the game with Forsaken. Forsaken kind of pulled me in, and this was after all of the seasons had come out, when they'd switched everything up. And I remember that those were a lot of fun, given I had a ton to do, and those seasons were staying for some reason. My understanding now is they don't do that anymore. And I guess the Bungie devs had felt overwhelmed with how much they were putting out. However, I would say that was one of the more peak experiences for me was Forsaken. I remember Cade dies. They introduce a new Fallen reskin with some different abilities. However, I got a lot more into it. Found Gambit as well. I remember there's this fusion launcher thing that you charge up and it would shoot and it would home in on people and explode. It was really good at the time. And I played the shit out of that. I remember that so well. And then on top of that, next came, I think it was Beyond Light. And I remember they introduced the ice classes and I was so excited. That was the coolest thing to me. and it was a lot of fun, freezing people, introduce a new class, not light, a dark class, and it kind of shook things up for me a lot. I know some people were complaining about how that changed how the game was played. However, to me, it just seemed like more content, more to be discovered, honestly. Around that time, I played through all of that Beyond Light, and my favorite raid to this day, only because of how well I know it, was the Deep Stone Crypt. I had that one down to a T. I would play it so much, just farming it at one after one continuously, just not quitting. I don't remember if there was a exotic for that specific raid. However, I got good enough where I was kind of the dick who would kick people out of my raid group if they did not know what they were doing. And I remember specifically jumping across the bottom of the satellite being one of the most kind of spiritual moments in Destiny, if you could call it that. Just the quiet music, sound is completely gone, warbled out, shots are warbled, and it was, to me, that was peak Destiny, honestly. And shortly thereafter, that Moon DLC came out. I don't remember the name, honestly, and I wasn't super interested in it. I remember getting on it, and I thought it'd be cool. I thought they'd introduce something new. I played through that the one raid that is in the garden. I think it's Garden of Salvation, honestly. And it was all right. It was fun. It was serviceable, honestly. But I thought that the nightmares were super boring, and the new kind of like shield system with the nightmares, like where they won't take any damage, I found that to be quite just bland, honestly. And I did not find that to be super duper. I didn't find that to be extremely exciting either. Kind of fell out of the game at that point. And I remember I didn't play the game for a solid, I think, 4 or 5 more years. Up to this point, I still haven't touched the game. And I guess there was a new faction. Nobody seems to talk about it much. The diamond people, or whatever, the triangles. And it's a game that for me, I did fall in love with at some point. And I remember such great things. And I'll probably mention it earlier, but as I mentioned earlier, I have Borderlands 2 footage up because I've been feeling kind of a craving for a game like that. And there isn't really much of it. I mean, there's multiplayer games, but to have like multiplayer raids on top of a storyline in the looter shooter format that is as sleek and kind of clean, well put together as Destiny, that doesn't exactly exist. And to me, that's something that I'm kind of pursuing with Borderlands 2. However, it's not even the same. It feels like I'm I'm simply on a story driven mission, and I don't on it. I spent hours looking for like what exactly there is to do in Borderlands 2, and nobody's super clear on it. I hear about raids, I hear about bosses. I don't know what the end game looks like or what it even amounts to. Kind of like getting those guns, what it means, because there's no multiplayer to kind of flex it if you do get something good or want to dominate some people. And it's kind of just been an overall sad experience. Like, I really like what Destiny had for a while, and their monetization problems, their consistent, almost like you have to buy it every single year format was not in good taste. And don't even get me started on sunsetting. I'm sure that everything that I have in my game won't work anymore. That's my understanding of it. And that's frankly atrocious as a studio to do that to their fans. And I understand all of this backlash that people are giving. I keep on getting these videos by Aztec Cross, whatever his name is. He's some spokesperson for the Destiny 2 community at this point. And a lot of it's the same every single time. He's got his opinion and whatnot. But switching over to something like Arc Raiders, to me, extremely interested. It's a it's an extraction shooter. I don't think that's gonna fill the same hole as Destiny did, as expansive and kind of all of the moving parts of Destiny that it had. I don't see that necessarily filling that void for those people. And I think because of that, Destiny will continue to have a player base. Hopefully they can pull themselves out of it, kind of. I just don't see it as something that is sustainable for me because it becomes a lifestyle. And I remember when I started, I was much younger, but even now, I don't have time for that. And that's kind of why. And I think a lot of people relate to that at some point. They leave Destiny, they come back, and it's fun and fresh, and then it becomes bland, or that they run into the things that people have been complaining about continuously. And I don't know much about the community necessarily. I know I was toxic when I was back on it. But that was kind of fun sometimes. I'll admit it. But yeah, just let me know if you guys kind of resonate with that at all. It's it's a special game, I think, to a lot of us, and it's kind of rough to see something that's unique like it kind of fall from grace so hard and continue to, and not seem to have a way back.